again, that could be to do with something with the that, not to say that all geocaches here are old and but it could be that most are there's lots of people who retire and then they go geocaching, then they find out
Yeah.
about geocaching, and they're not gonna be the people who are, they will be content with doing it themselves, and they're not gonna be the type of people who are gonna be super social. And most events here are. Oh, that's another difference which I actually miss compared to Latvia. Like the events here are 99% of the events here are in a cafe. You sit down, have a tea, have a cake, have dinner, but it's at a bar, it's at a cafe. It's a gathering
Okay.
to just sit, basically. Whereas in
Okay.
Latvia, most of the events, somebody organizes something like kind of like a race, like you have to do stuff to actually log the event.
Okay. So more activity
Um,
based there in
yeah,
Latvia.
scavenger hunts. Yeah, and again, younger people, older people, those kind of things.
So you've noticed a
And
very big
also,
demographic change between the
yeah,
two.
yeah. But having said that, like hats off to all the older geocachers here who go on hikes, and yeah, I personally know, from these events, I know, people, 60 plus people who, some of them are more active than me, like, you know, and that's a big difference culturally from Latvia, because in Latvia, when you retire, the stereotypical old Latvian is like a grumbling lady who's, sitting at home. She's sitting at her kitchen window in like the gray looking Soviet apartment blocks buildings. She's sitting
Okay.
in the kitchen window and just looking down on the street and just like unhappy look on her face and like judging all the people who are going outside. Obviously that's not true, but it's that kind of like, yeah, it's the stereotype. And also it's the standard of living. Like in Latvia, it is lower. Like the old people, retired people, especially because lots of those people worked in the Soviet times, and so they might not get pensions that are decent
Right.
because of all that kind of being lost from those times. So yeah, they're kind of barely going by. It's yeah, a bit depressing sometimes.
Yeah,
Whereas
I
here,
didn't think about
retired
that.
people will be mostly well-off people, having just bought a fancy camper van and traveling around and being happy with their life, that they don't have to work anymore. And
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that with Latvia being part of the former Soviet Union, how that
yeah,
loss of, that previous culture affects the current
yeah,
culture so
and
much.
yeah, and it affects, yeah, the way people are, because so I was born in Soviet Union, but I was only 3 years old when the Soviet Union collapsed. So, I haven't really lived in Soviet Union. But you can see that, like in my parents' generation, like there will be, people don't smile as much. People are more, they just, yeah, because in Soviet times you couldn't do that, because if you go about smiling, like if you go about your day smiling in Soviet Union, your neighbor will look at you and he's like, well, he's hiding, he's definitely hiding something,
Mm,
I want to, like basically your neighbor will dub you in because, maybe you've found some ways to somehow benefit from the system, like, or,
right.
so there's a lot of that kind of distrust, I think, especially in the older generations, like, yeah.